Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review, and what we're looking at in this episode is a newer line from brought to you by Konosuke, and I'm probably going to blow this, but it's the Konosuke Keiai NT Gyuto 210mm knife. The core steel, I talked to Mark a little bit about it, and it's basically proprietary. He didn't really tell me much other than it's full stainless, and you've got a little bit on the website about it. So the heat treat on that core steel is about 61 to 62 Rockwell. The construction is a stainless Damascus cladding, and they've got a unique process on it. We'll take a closer look at it. And you can read about it on the site, but instead of just kind of the normal etching and some of the things they do that's more of a surface treatment, this process, this proprietary process, kind of gets embedded in those layers and creates some really cool dark and kind of coppery brass effects. It's really interesting. Every knife's going to be unique in the way it turns out. So it's just it's a very dramatic, unique looking finish. It's really cool. This camera's pretty good, but it's in person it's even more dramatic. The weight on this is a light, nimble, kind of laser style knife. So it's 127 grams or 4.5 ounces. And the edge length on this one is about 216 millimeters, so a little bit oversized 210, which is a departure from them because normally their 210s are undersized. So this one's about 216 on the edge, about 8.5 inches, and the overall length about 14.3. It's a thin blade. It's about 1.8 millimeter coming out of the handle, and it pretty much just holds that and doesn't taper down too much till about the last inch and a half or so. So it'll taper down, and the tip gets thin right at the very, very tip. It's not like needle thin, but it's pretty thin. The height is 46.4 millimeters, so plenty of board clearance. And the handle, the maker of the handle is known as Studio Key, so it's called the Key Octagonal Rosewood Handle. And what's unique is it's one piece. There's no ferrule on it at all. These handles are really nice. The wood's cool, different figures on all of them. Not a lot of taper to the handle. They've got a little bit of a smooth, rounded butt end to them, but really cool look. Handle circumference is about 75 millimeters, about where a ferrule would be. That's where I measure. About 3 inches, pretty standard size. And you can see the neck is fairly wide, but you still get pretty good clearance on the board. The balance point, the handles are pretty light, so despite the light blade, the balance point's almost pretty doggone close to my pinch grip. So this is super light and super nimble. Let's take a close-up look at that really interesting finish. So the colors are going to vary by knife, but you get some darks and some blacks and some copper brass hues. It's bronzish. It's really cool. And then you can see that the grind is really thin at the edge. Take a look at that edge, how big that edge is as far as the core steel peeking through. So you can see the grind is even flatter on the left side of the blade than the right side of the blade. There's a little more convexivity to it. But there is, I don't know if they're going to change that, but on this knife there is no engraving or chisel kanji or anything like that. It's just a plain, in terms of that, it's anything but plain, but there's no markings on it. Handle install is really nice and tight. Great fit and finish on the knife. Smooth choil, smooth spine. It's thin at the edge. Get the focus going here. Again, you can see it's a little flatter on the right side and a little bit of convexivity, if that's even a word, on the left side. Let's take a look at it on the cutting board in a second. Here's the spine. Again, this is a thin kind of laser style performer. Here's the profile on the board. You can see we've got a fairly aggressive belly towards the tip, so a little bit of flat towards the rear, not a lot of flat, but a little bit, and then fairly aggressive belly. So here's I can get really high on this, so this will rock really nicely. Push, pull cuts, glide cuts, that kind of stuff. Not a pure chopper, but it'll do a lot of variety of techniques. So the steel, I went ahead, the out-of-the-box edge on this, I'd say these can vary quite a bit. Konosuke sometimes puts a decent edge, sometimes they put hardly an edge at all. It just depends on, they're not known for great out-of-the-box edges. So this one can vary. I'd say this one was a 5, maybe a 6, but I went ahead and sharpened it. I just wanted to see what it would sharpen like the steel. And it was pretty well behaved on the stones. I used the new Cerex 1K, 3K combo stone. And I started with a 1K on purpose, just to see how well it cut, not being a coarse stone. And took a little bit of work, but it cut it really well and created a nice sharp edge. So this is no comparison. It's not what I think it is. I really have no idea, but it kind of sharpens up like some of the R2 steels I've dealt with, just to give you a reference point for sharpenability. So don't say it's made out of R2. I did not say that. I said that's kind of how it feels sharpening. But anyway, so the sharpening, again, was, I thought, quite reasonable. Edge retention I cannot speak to because I tried it out just a little bit, but I don't test edge retention generally. So, but great knife. This is the Konosuke Keiai, sorry if I'm butchering that, NT Gyuto 210mm knife.